Hi everyone, welcome to episode 22. My guest today is BJJ black belt and owner of Team One Jiu Jitsu in Montreal, Canada, Professor Luciano Ucci.
It's time to high five and fist bump. A Jujitsu podcast for the everyday grappler. Let's talk subs. Let's talk positions. Let's talk dominating the mats. Welcome to the Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu podcast with Raymond Terrence.
All right, guys, my guest today is a BJJ black belt and owner of Team One Jiu Jitsu in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, Professor Luciano. Let's talk Jiu Jitsu.
Hey man, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. I know, you've been super busy and we've been jumping all over the place trying to, coordinate a time and everything, but I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're running your academy and a bunch of affiliates and everything, so I really appreciate you being here.
Hey man, it's my pleasure. Awesome. I knew I was gonna try to make some time sometime, and whatever, man, we're gonna get it done.
Great.
Awesome. I'm super pumped.
Awesome. So maybe just tell everybody how you got started in martial arts and maybe a little bit about your background.
Well, in martial arts, I came from when I was a kid. Like most people, I started with karate. Kyokushinkai karate. And yeah, so I was super passionate about martial arts, especially back in the early 80s when Karate Kid came out, right? So I guess a lot of us just jumped into karate. It was the most common thing to do. And then when I was a brown belt, I got hurt as a kid, and I was forced to take a break. And obviously, my parents thought that I quit. So when I wanted to start again, they said choose something else. But then time went by, and I was a bouncer in a club called La Boom in Montreal.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. I used to pump a lot of weights and thought what came with the shape would be a security job.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, I guess from there, then a friend of mine told me, hey, I think you know him as well, Sebastian Harvey. Does that ring a bell?
The name rings a bell, yeah.
No? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, so from he called me up. He goes, man, I started this thing, Jujitsu. I'm wearing a blue gi, and it's pretty cool. You learn how to tap out some people, and yeah, come with me. We're gonna go do this class there. It's in a karate school in Saint Constant. And George from karate? I was like, George, yeah, George. I was like, yeah, Saint Pierre, yeah, we're way younger. We used to do karate together. And he's the one teaching there, guy. He'll show you some crazy stuff. So yeah, so I went to that class, and it was fun. I mean, it was okay. I learned some crazy armbar. What really did it for me is when after a month or two, George brought us downtown where he would train back then, and I was under the Brazilian top team under my professor as well, Fabio Landa, and yeah, well, that did it for me. That just sunk it, man. That first class that I did there, I remember like it was yesterday. It's crazy. We walked into that elevator downtown on St. Catherine Street at the old Gamma gym, and when they opened, that smell in that gym it smelled like the real thing, man. And I remember seeing Fabio just doing armbar one out the triangle, and I thought it was so crazy. And that day I had rolled with his wife Juliana. At the time she was a brown belt, and I was like 185 ripped from the gym. I thought that's okay, I'll do good. She just beat the shit out of me. And it was just awesome. She was pulling crucifixes from everywhere, and I said, man, if this girl could do that to me right now, and I thought I was strong, I want to learn how to do that, as a smaller size to a bigger guy. So that's what really did it for me. That's what really like put the nail in the coffin. This is what I want to do, and it was that smell in the gym and the beating that I took from Juliana. Yeah.
Nice. And
So yeah, pretty much.
and at the time with Fabio, I mean, did you have a lot of training partners? Were there a lot of guys at the academy at Gamma at the time?
There were a lot of guys, yes. Um, but then again, it was a different wave. When I started, um, yeah, I get chills thinking about it because most of these guys that we got all our belts together, you know,
Mhm.
and Dave Thompson, Fred Kumsatira, Johnny Zumuli, Lee Villeneuve came by, after, And yeah, there was a lot of training partners. Actually, now that I think of it, at noon, it was the place to go. It was the place to go at noon on Wednesday lunches. That was like the MMA no gi class. Everybody, I don't want to start name dropping anybody, but everybody in MMA in Montreal was there on Wednesday lunch. It was crazy. It was so yeah, you had a lot of training partners, and but jujitsu with the gi, the guys that would do the gi and no gi, we were a smaller crowd, and that crowd stuck around for a long time, and we grew together, and yeah, we ended up having creating more training partners, so it was a nice crowd. It was a nice crowd. Yeah.
Nice. And did you do mostly no-gi or did you do a mix of both gi and no-gi?
Yeah, I always did both. From the get-go, I always did both. I'd say the beginning, I rather no gi, because like everybody, like most people, we start training, you think you're gonna do MMA. Because you're doing jiu-jitsu, you think you're gonna go fight MMA.
Hmm.
So I rather no gi, because at the time there's a lot of MMA guys training there. And but then afterwards, I really started falling in love with the gi, and we started competing in gi, no gi, and I always did both, equally. I always favored for a year. I favored the gi and no gi. I went back to no gi, but I always did both equally.
Hmm. And do you have a belt that stands out for you when you were a student where things start clicking together and you really were like, okay, wow, there's like really something to this. Like I feel like I'm progressing really well. Is there a belt maybe out of all the ones that you did that kind of stood out compared to the rest?
Um, I'd say blue belt. If I had to choose where I started seeing a difference, you know.
Okay.
Um, and I'll tell you why. It had nothing to do with skills that I was learning. It had to do with the brotherhood. You made friends. You got close with some guys. Professor Fabio had a way of making everybody feel like a family. Um, I guess it's a very common thing in the Brazilian nature and with jiu-jitsu to build something strong, brotherhood in their academies. And it's at that time there as a blue belt. I've been there already for like a bit more than a year. I start feeling like you really belong somewhere. Like, man, this is it. This is my place. And then I started going like twice a day, 4 days a week. You know, so obviously, yeah, the skill set started to increase, and I think I'm not sure. I think I never lost a tournament as a blue belt except for once. It was
Hmm.
to a colleague. you know,
Okay.
and yeah, it was. Oh yeah, in the final of absolute, I broke my arm
Oh,
because
nice.
I went to.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
that's
crazy. Did you have a lot of tournaments, like a lot of tournament options when you were competing as a blue belt, or
no, not back then.
no?
Back then we had to. There's nothing in Montreal. It was like in local gyms. Anybody in their gym that would organize a little tournament, and we had to go, let's say, to the states a lot. Ontario. There was a famous one back then, the Joslins one, OSW, um, Grappler's Quest that came a bit after. But no, we didn't have many options for tournaments, but we found those options and we went to them. Wherever the tournament was, we'd go. The whole gang, the whole like the guys that I started with, that we got all our belts together. Man, we made it a priority just to go compete.
Nice. And did you have a go-to move when you were a blue or purple belt, something that you were kind of known for? Like this guy is gonna do
Yeah,
this, basically?
yeah. Kimura. Listen,
Okay.
the Kimura, like my professor was good at Kimura. I wanted to be like him. That's it.
Hmm.
There's back then there was no online YouTube videos or there was VHS. I had a VHS of Mario Sperry, but again it was still at the time Brazilian top team. My coach was good at Kimura, so I just tried to mimic him the most. And from everywhere, from the back, from the side, anywhere, I would just jump on a Kimura and I would try to rip that arm off, and that's it.
That's really funny because all these black belts that I talk to under Fabio, they all say the same thing. It's always Kimura that comes up. So I guess there's something there that I should probably
Yeah.
be learning a little bit better, maybe.
You know what? I could reflect with time now. he's just that good at doing it, you know.
Hmm.
I think it's the fact that he was able to do it from everywhere, and once he locked it in, he wouldn't let go, and you just wanted to do the same because it looked so fucking awesome when you'd watch him doing it. So you'd say to yourself, man, I want to do the same. That's it.
Hmm. And what have you taken from those experiences when you were a student with Fabio to now? I mean, we can get in. I'd like to get into your school a little bit a little later too. But what have you taken from when you were a student and the
Yeah.
type of training that you were doing with Fabio compared to what you're doing now with your students? Is there a lot of things that you've taken that have transitioned over to your students and the way that you teach?
Listen, I tell you this, okay, and I mean it 100%. I'd say 95% of what I do comes from what I've learned um, with Fabio and the team. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, my way of thinking today. It's so funny when I say today, and I guess we'll get into it later. But the way I think today with jujitsu is so exactly how Fabio taught back then. I didn't understand it quite well. You know, I was still a rookie, and but everything I do today, I'm like, holy shit, man! Like without even trying, it naturally comes out. Like
Mhm.
I just said exactly what my coach would say, or I just acted exactly the same way, or I reacted the same way without even knowing it. Um, I think the grinding part, I implemented like at the beginning when I started teaching, I was purple belt, and I started teaching under Fabio, and already obviously the only image that I know, the only person I can rely to on how to teach is Fabio, right? And everybody that helped out at the academy. So everything that I did came from them. So I see sometimes how I talk, especially in the beginning, I really tried hard to be like him, right? Then with time, I came to realize, hey, I could be myself, but maybe just, use a few tips
Mhm.
of how he would run things, you know? But I definitely would say to answer exactly to the question, I'd definitely say the repetitions, the two by two trainings, let's go, come on, it's driller techniques, you know, and repeat, and just grind, man. Go in, train, grind, and that's it. Yeah.
Nice. And so how long has it been? How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu for now?
Uh, I in 2000. As I'm talking to you, I'm kind of looking at my certificate there. Um, yeah, that's my graduation certificate of blue belt. I started in 2003, 2004. That's about 15 years. Yeah.
Okay, okay, great. And were you did you become a more active competitor when you were a purple or a brown, or did you find yourself competing a lot more when you were a white and a blue belt?
Actually, up until brown belt, I was super active. Like I've never been more active. Like I think after 6 months, not even 5 months of jujitsu, I jumped in a few tournaments. I
Hmm.
think I remember one was in Sherbrooke. I was white belt. Yeah, I've never like it went increasingly. So because there was more options with time, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was a purple belt, then Ontario Open came along, and yeah, we went to all the Ontario Open tournaments, and yeah, so I'd say the most active I've been as a competitor would definitely be those 3 years I was a purple belt,
Hmm.
and it's only a question of injuries after.
Okay.
I went through a massive injury. I mean, massive, like everybody ACL, but I tore my ACL, MCL, and PCL
Wow.
after winning the Abu Dhabi trials in 2011. So from there, I had to take a bit of a break. I tore my ACL. You see where I'm going. So
Yeah.
yeah, I guess afterwards it's just a question of uh, get back healthy and try to do what you can.
Nice, nice. So do you find yourself? It's funny because I was having a conversation with a brown belt in Ontario yesterday called Kyle Sleeman, and he's an active competitor under Bruckman Martial Arts in Ontario in Oshawa, and he was kind of I was asking him about the amount of students that he had at the academy, and he was saying that they have about 200 students, but he has very few competitors. and I was comparing it to kind of where we were at BDT, and it's kind of follows along that same thing where we have a lot of students, but there are very few active competitors. What's the situation in your school? Do you find yourself in that same situation where you have a strong base, but you only have a few people that are really interested in competing?
As of today, I share the same thoughts, exactly the same thing. Um, yeah, so we're almost 250, and I mean, when I say 250, we do strictly jujitsu here. Like I have no striking class or anything, boxing, with that. 250 about more or less with of pure jujitsu, and I'd say the ratio of competitors is maximum 5%. And when I talk to friends, it's always the same thing. The competitors, it's maximum 5-6% of an academy. You know, so yeah, I mean, we do have competitors, obviously, um, but it's not mostly most of my clientele. You know, then again, I'd say when I started teaching as a purple belt, oh yeah, I mean, I was teaching at a school called Sparmax, and I was pushing, brainwashing everybody just to compete. No, no, you have to compete. You have to compete. What's the point? What's the point learning a martial art if you're not going to go test yourself like the old school way,
Right.
But today, I mean, you can't push people as much. I mean, if not, it doesn't become jujitsu for everyone, like we so called promoted, right?
Hmm.
So I just whoever wants to compete competes, and here I'd say maybe 5% of the academy does. Depends. Sometimes on a certain competition that's not too far and the expenses are very low, I might get another like 10, 15 students all of a sudden that want to do it. But actively on a yearly basis, that's gonna go out of the way. At my academy, this is the I'm the headquarter of our team. Yeah, maybe 5%.
Well,
That's about it.
and you as a black belt now, you're still competing to this day. I know because we were on the same plane going to Las Vegas on the way home, so I knew you were there. So you did
Yeah,
compete at the World Masters, so you're still competing.
yeah.
How do you find competing as a black belt now?
You know what? What I find, I'm gonna say difficult, and it has nothing to do with being a black belt. It's managing my time, managing, yeah, balancing my life as a competitor, um, professor, coach, because I do believe being a professor and a coach is two different things. Anybody is a black belt teaching a class is a professor, but then you have to become a coach to take care of your people.
Hmm.
You know, being a father as well. And being a businessman as well. Unfortunately, even though we're doing this as a pure passion, it is a business. If you want to live off of it, in which in my case it's my full time job. So yeah, I find it difficult just finding the time to really bring myself to that preparation level, like when I used to be purple, brown, even my first years as black. Mentally, I'd still be like, man, that's it. I'm ready. I did what I had to do. Like in Las Vegas, it was a total disaster. I didn't get ready at all. But I knew in advance. I mean, like, so out of shape, competed in a weight class above. But I knew I didn't go there with expectations, and I was just doing it to have a good time to accompany some of my guys that wanted to go compete. But yeah, then reality hits you, and you're like, man, if you really want to keep competing as a black belt, buddy, you better get ready.
Hmm.
So which is what I'm doing right now because I'm getting ready for the Nogi Europeans, and I changed my lifestyle for it
Nice. Yeah.
completely.
Yeah, I
I've
guess I
taken
guess that's
time for
really
myself.
hard when you're trying to compete and you're running schools and you're trying to manage everything in a family life and whatnot. I have
Yeah,
discussion all the time with Professor Fred. I mean, and he says the same thing. He's like, if I want to compete again, I have to focus on my training. But when I focus on my training, that means I gotta have other people take over what I'm doing, which is running schools, right, and teaching students and teaching classes and whatnot. So it's a big sacrifice that you have to make on your end too if you want to compete, if you are a school owner and you're doing that, especially as on a full-time basis. So I could definitely relate to that when I see other black belts having a hard time. There's that urge that they want to compete and you see that they want to,
yeah,
but they're managing 200 plus students. You know what I mean? So if you really want to compete at that level, I mean, you have to participate in classes, you need to do roles, you need to get lots of good training partners in also. So that takes up a lot of your time. But if you're doing Europeans, that means you definitely have a different mindset going into this one, and you're really spending some time training.
I do.
Are you doing anything differently now to prepare than you used to do when you were preparing to fight?
Actually, I am okay. Um, but then again, exactly like Fred hit it in the bullseye. And like Fred, Professor Fred, and you know we go way back when, and we know what it takes to get ready. We all got ready together. We know exactly what it takes. And yeah, right now what I'm doing differently is the time that I'm teaching, I put it strictly to teaching. Like while I'm teaching, um, I try to drill outside the teaching classes hours. So I don't get to do much of it, but I'm already doing a lot more than I used to do.
Hmm.
Um, when I'm rolling, so I train mostly with my students, right? And don't get me wrong, I mean I have killers in the gym, like some of my brown belts and black belts, like even purple, like oh man, I mean watch your arm, watch your neck, it makes completely no sense. They're terrifying, honestly. And some of them are not even competitors, and I'm wondering, man, what are you waiting for,
Right.
So it's when I roll with them now. Instead of being the instructor as I'm rolling, the approach is different. I'm actually going, let's say things are getting harder as I'm rolling, then I'll turn it up a notch, thinking like this is a match for real.
Hmm.
And then, but then again, what happens is then I get to look at the end of the match, like, hey, at the end of the roll, what, you're mad or something? What's up? I mean, whoa, you got pissed off? I'm like, no, I'm constantly having to explain. I just turned it up a bit just because I'm getting ready.
Hmm.
So, but before I would care what they would think. Right now, I pick and choose the guys I go with and the girls I go with because I have one of my brown belts. She gives me a hell of a good roll, and yeah, I have to be extremely technical. If not, she'll catch me.
Nice.
So it's just now instead of at the end of the roll giving up pointers or just giving up a position, I just don't give nothing,
Hmm.
and I think about myself during the roll part.
That must be
You know?
hard, having to flick that switch on and off, right? Going from instructor mode where, you're kind of giving some little leeways to students because that's the only way that they're
Yeah,
going to learn and they're going to grow, to flicking the switch and be like, no, like I'm focusing on me and my role. So it doesn't really matter. This guy needs to know or this girl needs to know that I'm training for something. So those little gaps might not be there this time around. So I guess you got to be careful of who you do that with, right?
exactly. So I gotta pick and choose who I go with and how I do it. So like yesterday happened. Yesterday I was rolling it. Not yesterday, Monday. I was rolling one of my students. He's a blue belt, and I picked him because he's good with foot locks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and he wasn't. He was just going super smooth, and I see him rolling with everybody else. He's a killer. And at the end of the roll, he was being super respectful. I had to tell him. It was the opposite. I had to tell him, listen, I really respect the way you roll me, and I'll always pick you anyway because I enjoy rolling with you like this. Um, but I need you to step it up a notch,
Mm-hmm.
because I know you're able to, and that's why I picked you. Usually I pick you because I like the way you're respectful. Now tonight I need you like until the Europeans, I need you to step it up a notch a bit.
Nice.
And the opposite as well. But the ones that usually we go super like hard,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta warn them that you know, listen, this time like I'm training for me tonight, right? Just please don't take it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So by saying so, they get like super pumped because they want to go even harder. So it gives me a good training.
Nice. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to come back on something that you mentioned, that, you guys are a strictly jiu-jitsu school and there's no striking, no
Yeah.
boxing, no kickboxing. Is there a
Yeah.
reasoning behind that, or do you have a goal to maybe get to start doing that? I'd like to pick your brain a little bit on that philosophy of
Yeah.
being a jiu-jitsu strictly only school right now.
Yeah. Well, it's quite simple, right? I want to be known for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's my area of expertise. I mean, you're never an expert, right? You always keep learning. But I'm just
Hmm.
saying that's what I do, and that's what I'm passionate about. And I think when you become like a gym with you have everything. Somebody wants to. It's I'd say mostly for the brand, maybe. I
Hmm.
want my brand to become, hey, it's jujitsu. So if you go to a place and they have kickboxing, Muay Thai, and wrestling, et cetera, every martial art that you could find, Cali, et cetera, I find that you're never an expert at every area. There's always one that you're better at,
Hmm.
especially if it's the same instructor teaching everything. I want to be known for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think it attracts a different type of clientele. Um, and also, since I'm not an expert at striking, or I'm not an expert at different martial arts, like even like judo, we had judo classes here. Before we do just practice some takedowns on specific nights. Then you're always relying on other people to teach classes. My mindset as a businessman as well is, if I know you can do nothing alone. You can build an empire alone. But if the empire crumbles, if something, I don't know, whatever happens, all my instructors quit or whatnot, can I can I run the business on my own? And if I had Muay Thai here and I had judo and I had et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, my answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
I want to avoid headaches. So tomorrow morning, I mean, I'm so grateful and blessed to have all the instructors that I have here to help out and to teach their knowledge as well. They have a different approach than I do. I'm all grateful for them. But tomorrow morning, if there's a week that they can't teach at all, I will restructure my personal life for those 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, and I will teach all the classes, and I can do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have to rely on nobody. And that's another reason of it. So, but basically, I want to go in one field, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If one day, um, Team One Jiu-Jitsu can become the reference,
Mm-hmm.
or one of the references for Jiu-Jitsu, I want people to say, no, that's a Jiu-Jitsu place. And it actually happened yesterday morning. A kid walked in with a different rash guard from a different team in Montreal, doesn't matter which one.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he said, one of my friends, and he fights MMA now. He's a UFC fighter. He told me to come here for jiu-jitsu because the school where he goes is too far. He says Team One is a good jiu-jitsu school. So already there, see,
Nice.
like the reputation started. And that's what I wanted. I said, well, there you go. The guy does his Muay Thai somewhere else, supposed to do wrestling somewhere else, but he does his jiu-jitsu here now. So, I mean, we're growing towards something here.
That's great. So maybe tell everybody, and this is something that I'm not aware of either, how, or I should say,
I know
when.
exactly what you're gonna ask.
Yeah, I know. So when did you decide that you wanted to open up your own academy, and how did that come about, and how did that all start? I do not know in any possible way. All I know is, you start somewhere and then you kind of branch out, and I did the same thing. I opened a karate school. I had a karate school for close to 20 years, and I started in
Yeah.
Kyokushin karate when I was a kid. And then when I got older, I opened up a school and did that for a while, and then kind of transitioned off to karate. I had accomplished everything that I wanted to do and moved on to jiu-jitsu and decided to kind of leave karate to the side. But I'm kind of curious how this whole Team One Jiu-Jitsu started, and when you decided you wanted to do your own thing, and how you really started this thing from scratch.
Well, you know what? It's a very delicate question to answer
Okay.
because the way it happened, um, well, there's two things. The way I started the name, it came from somewhere,
Okay.
obviously, and you know where it came from, and I'll explain to you in details after. And the branching out part, which is that's the downfall of my jiu-jitsu career, which was the best thing that ever happened to me business-wise. As a human being, I'm still living scars from that.
Okay.
Well, Team One Jiu-Jitsu at the time was a kimono fight wear started by my coach Fabio, right?
Okay.
So even though we were Brazilian top team, yeah, he started something on the side they called One Jiu Jitsu, which was a fight wear. So um, I was brown belt at the time. He was pushing me to open up a gym on the North Shore. I was teaching an academy back then. I didn't quite have the funds to do it, so I ended up opening up a small school in a CrossFit gym, a functional CrossFit gym
Okay.
in Delson. And since we were all wearing that One Jiu-Jitsu kimono uniforms back then, I had approached my coach and Fabio, and I said, I asked him, I said, and I had even asked him back then, I said, because I got a tattoo when I was purple belt, and I think I'm the only guy with the Brazilian top team logo on his arm, right?
Okay.
So I asked him back then, who do you know? Who do you know that has that logo except for me? So I'd asked him back then, hey, are we gonna be One Jiu Jitsu one day, or we're gonna be Brazilian top team. He goes, why? Because I'm getting a tattoo of the team, and yeah, I'm loyal to you.
Mm-hmm.
So if we become One Jiu Jitsu, I'm gonna get a One Jiu Jitsu logo, which was different, the logo back then.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, no, we're BTT, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, okay. But since we're all wearing the gi and stuff, and when I turned brown belt and I opened up that school, I asked him if I could, like, yeah, I'm gonna open up a school in Delson. I want to call it BTT One Jiu Jitsu. BTT because we're Brazilian top team, One Jiu Jitsu because we're all wearing the One Jiu Jitsu gi.
Okay.
And I said, yeah, we'll do whatever you want, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. It's like, why not just BTT? I said, why not BTT one? This is like your gis. He says, yeah, okay, whatever. So I'm running a BTT one Jiu-Jitsu Academy in Delson. With time, I was introduced to somebody from Val d'Or. In Val d'Or, it's in ABTB. He wanted to do jiu-jitsu, so he was taking privates with me here. He brought me to an academy over there, introduced me to a guy, Ralph David Jean-Pierre, and he has a school called Impact Kickboxing and Jiu-Jitsu, which was a traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
And yeah, we hit it off there, trained a bit together. I was teaching him by Skype since they were too far.
Wow.
I would go in my basement, my house, get together with a student or two, teach them by Skype, up until he became at least purple belt.
Hmm.
So he could be able to lead a class on his own. And yeah, so I called that gym there too, BTT Canada One Jiu Jitsu Val d'Or now.
Okay.
And then one of my oldest students, Professor Carl Fagna, he was a purple belt also at the time. He wanted to open up his own school. So we opened up BTT Canada L'Assomption, One Jiu-Jitsu L'Assomption.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, so things started growing. And I mean, I get kind of shivers and whatever talking about that. Yeah, so I mean, there's nobody to blame but myself. If today, which I don't regret it. I mean, it is the best thing business-wise that ever happened to me. I mean, I think I wouldn't have blossomed and have all these academies if it wasn't for my separation with BTT Canada. But it wasn't my choice. It was my coach's choice when they asked me to leave and do my own things. And yeah, I mean, today, back then, I didn't understand why. I understood why I was so blinded by rage and anger and unexperienced, think that I knew it all. Like many. I wouldn't say every, but like many. And I see it now. Many people that are really involved in jiu-jitsu and that really decide to do this for a living, they go through a phase where they think they know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And they go through a phase where they think it's because of them the team is doing good, or they're good earners. If they're a franchisee or they're like a branch of the team, they think they're good earners, and all of a sudden they should be thanked,
Mm-hmm.
and they end up having their own opinions. And I'd say what brought my professor to do that and to tell me to leave was the fact that as a white, to make a long story short, as a white, blue, purple, early purple, he would say jump, I'd say how high. I would never ask why. Blind, let's go. And late purple, it's been already a few years I'm teaching. He would say jump. I wouldn't say anything. I would question myself.
Mm-hmm.
As a brown belt, I would start answering why. And as a black belt, because I got all my belts from Professor Fabio,
Mm-hmm.
Not only I would answer why, I would answer back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's very simple. At BTT, Fabio's philosophy was this: he doesn't oblige nobody to stick with him. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You like it, you stick around. You don't leave. But if you stick around, just do what you're told. There's no room for whining. And only today, it's been a bit more than almost 4 years now. We're separated. I make it sound like we were married.
You got divorced.
I mean, well, man, you know what? Because it did feel like that for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I knew. It's the only thing I know. I've never joined any other professor. So yeah, when he asked me to leave and do my own things, only today I'm able to fully realize, man, I'm so embarrassed for the way I was for certain things. Could have been avoided? Yeah, it could have been if I was the man that I am today. You know,
Mm.
so yeah, obviously since I was to get back to the original question, how did that name come up? Well, I had to branch out, right? So I was known as BTT Canada One Jiu Jitsu. So obviously I had to remove the BTT Canada,
Hmm.
which was the biggest, my God, that was the biggest challenge I think I ever had. Health wise, I mean, besides injuries, I've always been okay. I never had a serious life challenge except
Hmm.
for little injuries or stress at work or whatnot. That to me was like, oh my God, man, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't know nothing else. I mean, you can't do that to me. Are you crazy? Like, I've been there from the beginning. Like, we built this together.
Yeah.
But he did the good things. So yeah, I ended up keeping the One Jiu-Jitsu part and creating Team One Jiu-Jitsu. And why I kept it is because he had given up the One Jiu-Jitsu kimono. I think, I'm not sure, I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Okay.
There was an agreement with Murilo Bustamante, the founder. No more One Jiu-Jitsu. It's Brazilian top team. Let's emphasize on Brazilian top team as a brand as well.
Hmm.
And he had given up One Jiu-Jitsu years before that I branched out. So obviously, my company was already incorporated One Jiu-Jitsu. Everything was already done under One Jiu-Jitsu. So I just kept Team One Jiu-Jitsu Canada.
Nice.
So yeah, a lot of people, such as yourself, were confused. They were asking me, even a year after, 2 years, isn't that like if I was like gi thing or it was the name originally? One Jiu-Jitsu was a kimono fight wear,
Hmm.
but I mean, when he gave it up, I kept the name because I thought it was cool. And when I had to branch out, well, I called it Team One Jiu-Jitsu Canada. You know?
And so from that point on, how did you get on your feet and be like, okay, like that's it, it's on me now. I got to figure this thing out. I've got, I have a name here. You started a school. How were you able to get from that point to where you are today? And obviously, there's a lot of hard work and dedication that got put into
Yeah,
it. So I'm curious how you built up from there. So how did you kind of get going and build up some steam? Do you have any, advice maybe that you can give people? Maybe just telling them your story about, because right now, I mean, I'm super impressed, and I try to keep in touch with you as much as I can because I mean I respect
yeah.
everything that you're doing, and I see your classes, and I follow you guys on Instagram, on Facebook, and everything. And I think it's crazy what it's become from what I saw just a few years back. So I'm curious how you were able to pick up that
Thanks, man.
steam.
All right, thanks a lot for the compliments. I mean, like I said before, no big empire is done alone, right? So when that news came up, I was devastated, right? When I mean devastated, I don't want to exaggerate things more than they are, But yeah, here, let me be dramatic. I was fucking devastated. Okay, and I had to regroup fast, right? I had to regroup fast, and we were in the middle of a belt exam, so even that, yeah, I had to make a call. Like I was supposed to fix. I think the call that I made me the man, made me the leader. Um, I think to be a good leader, you have to be the one able to take decisions nobody else want to do. You know, and it's at that point where we had a belt exam going on, and he had already told me to do my own things. And the belt test was on a Saturday. I was supposed to re-talk to him before, but the last news that I had is we couldn't go. And then all my other affiliates that I had, my SUA affiliates that I had under BTT, which I was in charge of, hey, where's the belt test, man? Like,
Hmm.
where's the ceremony at? And only two guys knew what was going on, really. And which is my one of my black belts, Professor Alex Horvat, okay, and Carl Fania at the time, right? So I had to tell him, and he was like, "Man, make a call." I was like, I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to embarrass the rest of my team over there. I didn't know what was the deal, so I ended up making this decision to do the belt test on their own.
Okay.
And yeah, that just put the nail in the coffin for like, that's really official. You're not part of
It's
BTT no
done,
more.
yeah.
But it was a call. Man, I had to make the calls. Like I didn't even know myself.
Yeah.
Can we go? Can we not go? And the day before, I had to order belts the day before, man. So I was freaking out. So yeah, from that decision on, then I had to regroup and talk to the most trusted people that I had around me, and Carl and Alex. We went for breakfast. I said, guys, man, this is the situation. Like, I'm freaking out. Alex, I mean, man, he was just there eating, like, yeah, it sucks, sucks. Like, he doesn't care. I mean, like, he just, for him, it's not his life. He loves jujitsu. I mean, like, he has a full-time 70-hour a week job. He works for the government, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Carl was into jujitsu, so for him, it was like a big thing too.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to sit down and say, guys, man, what do we do? What do we do? You know, this and that. You know, what do you think we should do? Should I retry to fix things? And you know, so then Carl looked at me and he said, as I understand, things are broken. It's done then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm freaking out. And I was freaking out. And he looked at me, he goes, step up. Exactly like that. Man, when he told me that, I felt so stupid, showing weakness like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, not that I felt stupid being weak. It's just that he put me on a pedestal already.
Mm-hmm.
And I was being so weak in front of him, looking for like maybe any advice or anything. He's looking at me, goes, step up, man. It's time to do our thing now. I was like, instantly, you're right. It took a week. The next day, boom, get on Fuji, order some gis, design a gi, bang, change the rash guards. I already had a kind of a rash guard, One Jiu Jitsu. Didn't like it. We still had the logo. Our One Jiu Jitsu logo was with the guy like Brazilian top team,
Right.
like the Bustamante logo, the hands in the air. And Fabio told me that don't use that. And yeah, he's right. It's too much Brazilian top team, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, redesign the gi, the logo, this that. Ordered a bunch of gis, broke. I was broke, couldn't afford it. Get a credit line, bang. Order 100. My God, not knowing, is everybody gonna freak out? Is everybody gonna say, oh my God, now how come we're not Brazilian top team? So I waited a bit. Few students, out of all the students that I had, two. And back then we were only maybe 120-ish, 130-ish. Two students wanted to really stay with the Banner Brazilian top team, and they're not with me today no more. And but they were really close to some other instructors at headquarters BTT.
Okay.
So I understand they were really close, you know. Right. And one of them was really close with Cascal as well. So yeah, so they branched, and which was okay, whatever. And when I told everybody, I said the best thing is to say the truth. Mm-hmm. So I said the truth without playing the victim. If you play out a victim, people don't want to follow victim.
Yeah.
Said, don't make it look like you branched out, because it's not really what I really wanted. Mm-hmm. Deep down inside, it's not what I really wanted.
Yeah.
But I kind of deserve the, hey buddy, go do your own things. Mm-hmm. I did deserve it. And I did deserve the fact that, you know, like I said, I wasn't the man that I am today. Mm-hmm. And I just told my students the truth. This is it. This is the situation. Can't fix it. But this doesn't change anything. We're still training Jiu-Jitsu. And now the team is going to be built on not only myself, us, you know? So I told my original 10, I call them my original 10, the 10 first people that I graded, because they all started together, more or less, 6 months apart, a year apart. Mm-hmm. And they all followed. And the fact that they trusted me, the fact that they all followed like blind, like, hey, hands down, Luch, you're my coach. It put so much trust into the rest of the group that we're still like, hey, what's going on? And they saw their trust in me. So it just made me feel like empowered. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was still in pain, you know, and the pain will never go away, but I was able to pick myself up and say, man, if they believe in me, I got to believe in myself. I mean, come on. I mean,
yeah.
So yeah, from there, then I approached my affiliate, my other two affiliates, one in Valdor, said, hey, this is the situation. What do you want to do? He's like, what do you mean? Like, you joined me because I was Brazilian top team, or you joined me because I was Luciano Ucci? So listen, you're my professor. I'm following you. This is good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I told him the truth too. There's no way playing the victim. I got kicked out. No, I told him the truth. Things got heated. I think maybe I deserved it, but whatever. This is it right now. So people just kept following. They saw how dedicated I was, and yeah, I mean, we made it about us after. We rebuilt a new curriculum, and it wasn't on Luciano Ucci's moves. It was on, hey, Carl Fagna, Alex, you, Alexandra, hey, you, Phil Grondin, I like the way what you do this. I don't do it, but you do it well. Let's use that too. And we built a curriculum that represents Team One Jiu-Jitsu, that represents all the students.
Nice.
So a lot of techniques I'm showing, I don't use them as much. They're super awesome. It's not just doesn't reflect me, but they're part of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I think they're super important to show. So vice versa, and we sat down together and we wrote a curriculum. Obviously, a lot of things are Brazilian top team stuff. I'm a Brazilian top team black belt, but yeah, we made our own thing, and that's it, man.
Nice. That's crazy.
That's almost,
And I guess
yeah.
from that curriculum, and I mean, I was gonna say when it comes to curriculum, I think it's the strongest thing that academies could do instead of just having the instructor come in and today like we're gonna be doing this and then the next day it completely changes. I think having that core curriculum is super strong, and you're starting to see it more and more and more academies. But to go back to from where you came from to where you are now, it's pretty crazy. I think a lot of people would have folded at that point, and I have to say I could relate a lot to that because more than a lot to that. If my wife was in this room, she'd probably think that like we spoke before, we fabricated this story together. Because when I branched out from my karate school and opened a karate school, I ended up taking a name that was handwritten in a Sharpie on these pads. So it was I grew up in Dorval Karate, so in the city of Dorval, and on our pads, our my instructor would wrote SKK Karate, which was Samurai Kyokushin Karate. And it was like there was no name, there was no affiliation, it had nothing to do with the karate we were doing. It's just something that he wrote. And later on, I ended up thinking it was a cool name, so I called my school SKK Masters Den. And did I get shit for that? You don't understand. Where my instructor was on my butt. How could you do this to me? So I kind of went something went through similar. I think my situation was a little bit more dramatic just because my instructor, I would say, was very passionate and all he knew was karate. So, and I was his main black belt. So having branched out and kind of taken something that he thought was his, just didn't sit well with him. So I kind of went through with that, and I can understand where to this day it kind of leaves some little scars, and I wish I was I had the mentality now that that or back then that I did have now, because things probably would have went a little differently, and I probably would have done things differently. So I could relate a lot to that. But I mean, the fact that you've grown a jiu-jitsu school and you've kind of started something on your own, and now you are where you are. Sometimes it takes those really bad situations or those touchy situations to make something great come out of them, right? How many how many
Absolutely.
how many academies or how many affiliates do you have now going on underneath your HQ?
So we're not that many, you know, and I'm not looking to grow more. If I just want quality. I want quality. I've been approached and I've turned down some people as well. Um, so there is HQ. There's One Jiu Jitsu Pointe aux Trembles, the gym local, which Professor Calfagna is in charge.
Mm.
There's Gym L'Octogone, if you know Derek Gauthier. So he has a martial art gym there, and he's running the One Jiu Jitsu program there. There's in Delson. Delson is we're just trying to reboot it again. I gotta explain something about Delson. Delson is because I come from the South Shore, right? So that's the original place I started to open up something, but I was always teaching on the North Shore because at the time I had a girlfriend that would live on the North Shore, so that's where the elite team grew, But yeah, it's still up and running now with a new administration. So in Delson, the One Jiu-Jitsu. There's also Laval, so Professor Jacques Dupont in karate. So if you're in Kyokushin, might know Jacques Dupont.
Yeah, I actually know Jacques. Yeah, definitely. And the
Yeah.
one or few times or one or two times that I actually came to see you, he so happened to be there. So I was kind of happy to see a friendly face, and we ended up rolling together. I was a blue belt at the time, and I think he was a blue belt. And we're like, isn't this weird
Yeah.
that we're both doing jiu-jitsu
Yeah.
together, but we knew each other as black belts in karate? It was pretty cool.
I gotta give it to him. I gotta give him a shout out, man. Like the
Yeah.
guy, now today he's 52, right? And he's a purple belt of mine. He's a year and a half in, more or less. And it's so hard. Like when he started, it was maybe like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It's so hard being a black belt karate. And I could say he's a master because he's been black belt for over 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
And running his schools and his affiliations to restart a completely different sport, go back down the ladder. And man, I got to give it to him. He stuck with it, you know? And he's a big boy and he
Hmm.
found it really hard physically at the beginning. And man, today, like, I mean, he's running a One Jiu Jitsu affiliation, you
That's
know?
great. Yeah.
So there is a One Jiu Jitsu program at his place. And I have also another one of my purple belts that's there. He should be promoted soon to brown belt. That's teaching the program there. And we also have Valdor, as I was saying, with brown belt coach have David Jean-Pierre. And yeah, I mean, it's funny. We have like a team in Calabria, Italy, you know,
I saw
and
that on
that
their website. I was gonna ask you. So I said this guy either put his like grandmother's address, who still lives in Italy, and apparently there's a jiu-jitsu school there, or there's actually something going on. I was gonna ask you.
you know what? I have somebody to thank for that, which was you know him too, James Facchino. You know,
Okay,
he's an
yeah,
old
yeah.
colleague of mine at BTT, right?
Mhm.
He was a good buddy as well, and he was there on vacation years ago, and he came back. He goes, we're talking, and he saw the Skype things I was doing with the Valdor, and he told me, "Hey, Luch, you know, I was in Calabria, I went training there." I said, "Yeah, I saw pictures. The guy there is blue belt, you know, Alex Farinelli, a super nice guy, but I think he needs, you know, this is not what you do something with him with Skype and stuff." So I just might, man, I just might do it. So I got into a plane. The guy say, "I'm coming to see you." He's like, "Who are you?" "I'm Luciano Ucci from Team One Jiu Jitsu Canada. I'm coming to see you, and yeah, I'm gonna come to see you. Let's chit chat for a bit, you know." And the funny part is, the only reason why I did that is because James, when he showed me pictures, it was in Tropea and Soverato in Calabria. And in 2008, I was a blue belt. And I would, obviously, when you're a blue belt, you always want to show everybody you're doing jujitsu. So I was tackling the some cousins on the beach, you know, and I said one day I'm gonna have a jujitsu school here in Calabria, you know. They were all laughing, like, "But who's gonna do these movements over here? What are you doing? This is what is this?" You know? He goes, "Here we play soccer, bro. Never mind your jujitsu over there." So so I was like, "Yeah, you'll see, you'll see." Holy shit! I'd say almost 15 years later, 2007. Yeah, no, 10, 2007, 9 years later, I'm back there in Calabria, in Soverato, meeting up with a guy I don't know. Came to pick me up at the train station like a king, bro. He treated me like a king. I brought one of my students, Jonathan Urtubise. He was a purple belt back then. He's one of my brown belts today. And we went there. He goes, "But you know this guy?" "Nope." So what do you want to do? So we're going to tell him to start training Team One Jiu-Jitsu. That's it, you know. We're going to help him out. And so I went there, a very small place. It was in like a gym complex, 5, 6 guys, you know. And yeah, I mean, we hit it off. And he kind of told me, I offered him, "Listen, maybe I could take care of you guys, you know. I run classes through Skype. So that's something that interests you. La 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 la, you know." And he answered me, he goes, "Thank you very much, this and that. But why do I deserve all this generosity?" And I don't Corleone style, he told me, you know. So I said, "Listen, you have one friend we have a friend in common. His name is James Facchino. You should thank him. You know, don't worry. I go, it's not about you. It's about me spreading jujitsu." And I always said one day, I told him, I'm being selfish. I always said one day I want to do something in Calabria. And I'm not even Calabrese. My parents are from Campo Bas. It's like saying Quebec City and fucking I don't know, me, Ontario, you
That's
know.
really funny
So
because my wife is from, so her parents are from Argentina, but her grandparents are Italian, and the whole family is
okay,
actually in Campobasso.
that's funny.
That's
That's
crazy.
funny. You know, I go to Calabria maybe 3 times a year, and my aunt there, my dad's cousins, like, you know, your father tells me you have like running, like you're doing a jujitsu there in Italy, in Calabria. You know, it's not even your country. You know, like, what do you mean by country? Paese in Italian,
Yeah,
you mean like
yeah,
they're like province. You know, you never even came to ours. I'm like, yeah, I've been. He goes, no. I'm like, you're right, but I will. You know, so
yeah.
so uh, so yeah, and that's it. So we hit it off from there, and yeah, and today we became good friends now. Now actually, I go twice for jujitsu, and one time I go for, like, and I go in June for vacation with my family, and
Nice.
he like doesn't want to bother me much while I'm there for classes, but I teach every class at night. You know,
Hmm.
I'm there, you know, and I get to sweat as well because I eat like a fat pig when I go there, and yeah, so that's it, man.
Nice. So, do you have any plans? So I know you were saying, you don't plan. You know, your goal isn't to become this, ginormous name and to have affiliates all over the place. It'll grow when it grows, right? And everything has a time.
Yeah.
What do you have any plans in the next, I don't know, the next couple years? Like, do you have anything set in stone where you're like, oh, I wouldn't mind going over here, or maybe, doing this, or sending more guys into comp, or going to this, or deal. So, what's your like short-term plans?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought about that a lot, like competition. Maybe should get back into like competing a lot, pushing everybody to compete.
Hmm.
I don't think it's the future. That's my perspective. If
Hmm.
you want to grow in jiu-jitsu and really live off of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a small percentage, and you should align yourself for something else. I'm glad you asked me because I'm super proud and I'm super pumped. I just it took a year and a half to put this up, to get it up and running. But yeah, my main goal originally, it's important to mention is because my main goal was what? I want to live off of jujitsu.
Hmm.
Okay, so I want to do jujitsu for living. So it's very easy, right? You want to do jujitsu for living, quit your job, do jujitsu, right? But then you want to live off of jujitsu,
Yeah.
right? So that's another story. Can you
Hmm.
pay your bills and I have another job and actually take a pay? So then I was able to live off of jujitsu actually quickly, right? So I was able to quit the shitty job that I had at the airport, and yeah, at 3 o'clock in the morning and live off of jujitsu. But then Then what was my other goal was I wanna live well off of jujitsu. I'm doing my passion. That was my main thing, right? So you're doing your passion for living. So then you want to live well off of jujitsu. I'm living well off of jujitsu. Or what I mean by living well is my bills get paid, and I'm able to put food on the table for my son at whatever cost, and that's what matters. It's not about anything else. I can pay the bills, and we can treat ourselves to a dinner when we want. My
Hmm.
wife and I. So for me, that's success. The rest is just extra. But then the business started keep growing, and jujitsu, like my team as well, the guys are doing better. And what's the next step, really? Right. So I asked myself, what's the next step? Like, okay, I want to make a difference. Yeah, but I already am making a difference. You teach martial arts.
Hmm.
Yeah, now let's make a difference with no lucrative intention. So I just started a foundation called Mission One Jiu Jitsu,
Hmm.
and I'm putting a lot of my, not all my time on that, but a lot of it. I mean, because I gotta still take care of the business. Yeah, so it's an anti-bullying foundation,
Nice.
which we're gonna give out tools. Our main goal is to give out tools how to deal with the everyday bully, not just talking about it. I mean, bullying is around. The awareness for bullying has been around for 22 decades, 3 decades. But what is really done about it? My main goal is not to go around in schools and talk about it. Everybody knows there's bullying. What is it? What is there really being done to actually fight it? We see kids at school, the awareness day, they're wearing those blue turquoise ribbons,
Hmm.
you know. Yeah, but what's being done about it? Are schools, elementary schools, high schools hiring anybody to teach them some kind of martial arts? Realistic martial arts.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Realistic situations. What I mean by realistic situations, school situation, pushing each other, two on one, like in high school, in the
Hmm.
locker rooms, at the park. So uh, my foundation is gonna give out some tools. self-defense tools in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu aspect,
Hmm.
how to face the everyday bully, what to answer, how to answer back without creating any confrontations. I don't want to teach the kids to avoid. There's no avoiding. Bullies, you can avoid a bully, he'll find his way towards you. Okay? So how to face him, make them feel better, make them feel in confidence, make them feel like that they can stand up for themselves. That's the main purpose of this foundation, one of the branch. And the other branch is to help out the kids. When I say kids, not only Team One Jiu Jitsu kids, any kids from any schools or any background that don't necessarily have the funds to participate in a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu programs. I want to be able to help them out, you know, to or maybe a 1 day a week or 1 day every 2 weeks program for free, you know,
Nice.
so they can initiate them to Jiu-Jitsu. And the other branch is to have an elite program for kids. What I mean by elite program, an after-school program where I go pick them up at school with buses. So have like 215 passengers. Go pick up the kids at schools, make them do their homeworks here for an elite jiu-jitsu program, competitive, to be able to help them fund their travels around the world. Because if they want to go to big tournaments, and that's what they need to do, they need to train a specific way, more than just twice a week, 3 times a week, completely change their lifestyle. So yeah, I'm working a lot on this foundation. That's where I see myself going. The business is one thing, personal is another thing. The business is doing good. Okay. So for me, it's just to keep teaching our passion, um, trying to bring as much knowledge into our team as possible. So not be narrow-minded. We last year we had Professor Clark Gracie here for a seminar. You know,
Nice.
we're having on November 10th, Fionn Davies.
Yeah, I saw
You
that on
know,
Facebook.
yeah, she's a beast. Like honestly, I had no idea who she was. Like my students follow jiu-jitsu a lot more than I do, and she's a beast, whatnot. So we're the only Quebec tour stop she's doing in her Canadian tour, and recently approached Professor Andrew Galval for a 2020 seminar.
Nice.
So where I'm seeing, I want to bring as much knowledge, okay, to the team as I can.
No,
But right now, a lot of time on that foundation. For me, it's important to give back.
no, for sure. Yeah, and I think you said it well. When it comes to anti-bullying, everyone says anti-bullying, and everyone knows it's there, but no one really does anything about it. So that's really great. I'm super impressed with that. And if people want to check that out, I think you posted some stuff on Facebook, right, about the foundation.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
perfect.
Well, I mean, I'm still in the mix. Like I said, like I shared the logo
Okay,
last week. Now we're in the mix of building the website.
okay,
You know, it's going to be under Mission One Jiu Jitsu, and the Facebook page. It's not officially up yet. I want to make it. I want to make sure everything is nice and you know done properly, and all the right information is put there. I don't want to have it up and running until everything is there, clear. Yeah, that's it.
nice, nice. That's amazing. And so maybe just to finish off, maybe just give people an idea what obviously it's a very loaded question, so you could probably go off for a while on it. But when it comes to concepts of jujitsu, so when it gets down to the nitty gritty of training every day or training 3 times a week, everyone is pretty much the everyday grappler. Like we said, there's a very small percentage that are going to be competing all the time and be active competitors. Are there any foundational concepts that you kind of portray to your students when it comes to jiu-jitsu as a whole that kind of helps people and guides them throughout their jiu-jitsu journey? If you say that, if we talk, if things are very positional. The guy that I had on yesterday was talking about his concept of jiu-jitsu was really focused on grips, and I found it really interesting because it's something that kind of came into my mind through Professor Fred recently, and this guy Kyle was saying that for him his concept of jiu-jitsu is not letting anyone put their hands on him. So if someone goes and puts their hand in his lapel, his first instinct is to get rid of that hand. If someone puts their hand on the inside of his knee, on his gi pants, he has to get rid of that grip. Is there anything like as a whole? I know it's a very loaded question, but is a strong
Yeah,
concept for you in jiu-jitsu?
if I can answer that question with some type of philosophy that I like to teach in class is everything everything is a mind game. I like to impose a lot, not impose, teach my students everything is perspective. So regardless that you're beginner, intermediate, advanced, when you're about to grapple, that you're on top position or bottom position, you have to be in a proactive mode. And let me explain that. Okay. And I try to keep it simple because I start telling people about positions, this, the whatnot, grips and stuff. I like to keep them simple and focused because I do believe um, heart and mind will overcome any technique. Okay, and I've seen it throughout the years, man. I've trained with guys that are super skilled, guys that were like we were purple and they were like white belt, and they were like if we weren't careful, they would tap us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they would if things got hard, they were super skilled, but things got hard for a long period of time, they would break.
Hmm.
If when I mean by long period of time, during the roll or during their journey in jiu-jitsu, they would break. Okay, so it's being able to be mentally strong. So if you let's say if, for an example, if you're on top, what's your main goal if you're on top in jiu-jitsu is you want to establish a position to transition then to bring your partner to tap out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your main goal is to pass the guard first, right? You want to pass the guy's guard to establish a position to try to finish him. But if your mentality is always, oh my God, I don't want to get swept. Oh my God, I gotta avoid the grips. Oh my God, I gotta avoid the always like it's negative. It's you're behind.
Mm-hmm.
You're worried so much about if you're worried so much about what the other person's doing, you're not gonna be concentrating on what you have to be doing. So if you're going with the one mindset of, man, I gotta attack, regardless of my position, that I'm defending, that I'm in a defense position. If I'm attacking, the guy has to defend as well, even if you're in a bad position. So if you're on top trying to pass the guard, just keeps attacking, trying to pass the guard. No, he's counter-attacking you. You will have to defend, but go back to attacking. If you're at the bottom, what's your main goal? Is to attack.
Mm-hmm.
You want to sweep or submit. So keep attacking. The guy's putting pressure to pass your guard. Keep attacking. Keep putting in practice what you know from here, because as much as you're attacking, he will have to react to your positionings and to your attacks and defend. Your turtle position, the guy's behind you, he's trying to take your back, whatever. Attack an arm, roll under, do something, but keep having the mentality as you have to be the one smashing and pushing the pace. You know, if you're the one sitting back and waiting what the other person will be doing, he's gonna impose his will before you, and it becomes a mind game. You know, I always said it. Who's gonna win? Two guys, two black belts, same skill set, the same level of cardio, same conditioning, and they both know the game exactly inside out, how to play with the rules. Who wins the match?
Hmm.
Who wins the match? The skill set are the same, conditioning is the same. The guy that won't break, the guy that has more heart, and he's mentally stronger. He's gonna make the other guy break and make a mistake or capitalize on an advantage or whatever or whatnot. So yeah, I emphasize that a lot mentally, and that's where I put my attention on as a base for jiu-jitsu. You know, try to make their mind strong to overcome, war.
That's definitely great advice. And I'm gonna go to jiu-jitsu tonight and smash somebody in the face. That's my plan. And after I do that, I'm gonna be like, that's what Professor Luciano told me to do.
Smash, just smash.
Smash. Well, thanks a lot for your time, Professor. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast. And you're welcome back anytime. If anybody wants to check him out, you guys can follow him on Facebook. You can go on the website. It's Team One Jiu Jitsu. Like we were saying, he's got academies a little everywhere around Montreal. So if people that are out of town that want to drop in somewhere, I know he welcomes everyone all the time, including myself. So I appreciate everything that you're doing. Good luck with the foundation. Make sure that you keep everyone updated on Facebook on what's going on. And again, thanks for being on. I appreciate it.
Will do, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everything, and appreciate you having me. And you're a stand-up guy, right? So, like I said, everybody's always welcome. No politics on my place. You're more than welcome anytime you want. All right, brother?
Thanks, man.
You've been listening to Let's Talk Jiu-Jitsu with Raymond Terrence. Go follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page. turn on notifications, and press that like button. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the mats.